Imagine yourself seated at a beautifully set dinner table, surrounded by warm laughter, the elegant clinking of expensive crystal wine glasses, and the relaxed, rhythmic hum of polite, upper-middle-class conversation. To your left, a colleague casually mentions, while taking a bite of their main course, that they've successfully topped up their employer-provided retirement account for the 12th year in a row. Across from you, an acquaintance leans back in their chair, slowly swirling a glass of Cabernet, and begins to explain the strategic terms of the rental property they purchased last summer as a passive income source. While you digest this information, a third guest at the other end of the table casually notes that their personal investment portfolio recently reached a dazzling financial milestone, a figure you wouldn't even think ordinary individuals could achieve outside of professional Wall Street investment firms. Meanwhile, you sit in agonizing silence. Your hand clutches your glass tightly, silently and sadly calculating the numbers in your head. You try to remember if you opened a retirement account with your current employer, or even if the modest $8,000 currently in your main savings account qualifies as legitimate retirement planning. You smile politely, you nod seemingly in agreement. Taking a deep sip of your wine hastily to avoid further discussion, you utter a vague, hesitant expression like, "Wow, that's truly incredible. Congratulations." But beneath your cool exterior, your stomach churns slowly and heavily. It drops 3 centimeters and stays there like lead, refusing to move. Hours later, the dinner party is long over, but the anxiety is just beginning. You lie on your back in bed, staring blankly at the dark, silent ceiling. Falling asleep is utterly impossible. Your brain has become a broken record, constantly replaying those mundane dinner conversations. You find yourself trapped in a series of stressful, unanswered questions. Should I have stretched my budget and bought a house 5 years ago when interest rates were lower? Did I make a mistake? Why didn't anyone take the time to teach me the basics of long-term investing when I was in my 20s? Is it too late for me now? Am I really doomed to work until I'm 75 just to keep the lights on and pay the bills? Here's the dirty little secret at that elegant dinner table that no one will ever admit to you. Most of the people in the room are lying to you, while the other half are silently drowning in the same financial worries that keep you awake at night. They have trouble falling asleep. The gentleman proudly boasting about his rental property didn't mention that the house has been completely empty for the past 3 months. He's currently paying thousands of dollars out of his own pocket in mortgage payments, property taxes, and bills to keep the house afloat. The woman who's maxed out her retirement account is hiding $40,000 in high-interest credit card debt from her husband and constantly transferring balances between promotional cards to avoid a major family crisis. Others have mastered the art of displaying middle-class self-confidence because they believe it's necessary for successful adulthood. That deep ache in your stomach, that constant knot of anxiety, isn't because you're a personal failure, but because modern society gives you a rigid checklist for life milestones, completely ignoring the fact that this list was written in the mid-1980s. Back then, a basic home cost only $89,000. College tuition could be comfortably paid with a part-time summer job, and the average income could comfortably support a family of 4 with a suburban mortgage. The historical financial metrics you use to measure your self-worth are fundamentally structurally flawed. They were designed for an industrial, retirement-focused economy that no longer exists. Yet, because we've internalized these invisible milestones, we feel like complete failures when we reach our 40s without checking every single box. Today, we'll lift the curtain and look at real, tangible financial metrics for age 40, based on contemporary economic data. Some of these figures will give you a deep sense of relief. Others may serve as a necessary, sobering warning. More importantly, will offer a highly practical, easy step-by-step roadmap designed to help you catch up, even if you're starting from scratch today. And here's a mathematical truth that might completely surprise you. Individuals who begin accumulating wealth with high focus later in life are in a far superior financial position than those who start early and passively progress. Trust me, because math doesn't lie. There's a precise, formula-based reason for this phenomenon, and we'll analyze it shortly. This reason revolves around a concept known as contribution intensity. Once you understand how this mechanism works, you'll understand why your 40s aren't a time to despair, but rather the most powerful wealth-accumulating decade of your entire working life. Believe me, watching this video to the end will be very rewarding. First, let's talk about a classic dreaded rule, frequently cited by traditional asset managers and financial institutions. The traditional understanding is that by the time you blow out the candles on your 40th birthday, you should have secured 3 times your current annual salary in your retirement accounts. Let's look at the math behind this rule. If your current annual income is $80,000, then according to the rule, you should have saved $240,000. If you earn $100,000, you're expected to have $300,000 in your portfolio. If your household earns $120,000, your target is $360,000. When stated quickly, it seems incredibly clean, simple, and logical. But in the real world, this benchmark is brutally inconsistent with the life experiences of the vast majority of working professionals. According to the Federal Reserve's Comprehensive Consumer Finance Survey, the actual average retirement savings for American households between the ages of 35 and 44 is approximately $45,000. Think about it. Average means that if you rank every American in that age range from poorest to richest, the person right in the middle of the line would only have $45,000 in savings. That's not even close to 3 times the average wage. For most middle-class households, $45,000 barely covers 3 to 4 months of basic living expenses, let alone decades of retirement. This means that if you are 40 years old and currently have $30,000, $60,000, or even $100,000 in savings, you are actually significantly better off than the vast majority of your peers. The overly aggressive metrics that make you feel like a failure and inadequate are largely designed by large investment firms to sell products, hire advisors, and collect high fees. However, accepting this reality doesn't mean settling for average. In modern times, being financially average means entering your retirement years with just enough capital to barely get by. The real goal is to establish true and unshakable financial freedom. To create a realistic strategy, we must set benchmarks that reflect our current economic environment. The first essential element is the retirement savings benchmark. Instead of the daunting triple pay rule, a highly realistic but meaningful goal to be achieved by age 40 is to invest 1.5 to 2 times your annual income long term. If you currently earn $70,000 a year, this means a target range of $105,000 to $140,000 in your retirement portfolio. If at age 40, you have $120,000 in a standard diversified stock portfolio, even if you face an emergency and cannot add a single dollar for the next 25 years, this untouched money will grow to approximately $821,000 by the time you reach 65, with an average annual return of 8%. This alone won't make you enormously wealthy, but it provides an incredible safety net. Now, imagine that you continue to make regular and disciplined monthly contributions to this portfolio throughout your peak earning years. Suddenly, you're on a very clear and highly predictable path to accumulating over $1 million. The second essential element is emergency reserves. You should have a dedicated cash reserve, securely stored in a liquid, high-yield savings account, equivalent to 3 to 6 months' worth of basic living expenses. Defining what constitutes basic expenses is crucial. This category is limited to the absolute necessities required to keep your household functioning securely. These include mortgage payments or rent, essential bills, nutritious food items, critical insurance premiums, and essential transportation costs. For the average household, this translates to a liquid balance of between $12,000 and $25,000. We must draw a clear and unchangeable line here. Your emergency fund is not a multi-purpose savings account, nor is it a vacation fund. It is simply money that acts as a financial safety net between your life and a sudden catastrophe, ensuring you never have to take on high-interest debt to survive. The third fundamental principle is the elimination of high-interest consumer debt. By the time you reach your 40s, you should have completely eliminated all high-interest consumer debt from your personal balance sheet. This means reducing credit card balances that charge 18 to 30% interest to zero every month. High-interest personal loans or financing plans must be completely eliminated. Ideally, your only remaining liabilities should be a primary home loan and a reasonable auto loan at well under 6%. Let's be clear, if you are 40 years old and still carrying a rolling credit card balance month after month, you are unfortunately facing a major financial crisis. High-interest credit card debt acts against your net worth with compound interest, in the same way that investments use mathematical power to build it. Eliminating this debt is your highest priority, preceding any investment. The fourth key element is your income trajectory. Your professional income at age 40 should represent a significant and noticeable increase compared to 10 years prior. According to labor market statistics, an individual's peak professional earnings years have historically been between ages 45 and 54. By the time you reach 40, you should have entered this high-earning period, receiving a salary at least 30% higher than your earnings at age 30, adjusted for inflation. This isn't about climbing the corporate ladder for status. It's actually a matter of math. Your capacity to accumulate wealth is ultimately limited by the limits of your income. Someone earning $50,000 a year and saving 20% of their income will save $10,000 a year. Someone earning $100,000 a year and saving the same 20% will save $20,000. Over a 25-year period, this large difference in the absolute volume of accumulated capital translates into hundreds of thousands of dollars in additional income. When people look at these metrics and realize they fall short, they naturally panic, feel ashamed, or give up. But here's the fundamental mathematical truth of late-life wealth building. Catching up in your 40s is generally much easier and faster than building a portfolio from scratch in your 20s. This highly encouraging phenomenon is driven by three distinct factors. First, your earning power has increased. The average 40-year-old professional has a much higher earning power than a 25-year-old. This means you have more raw capital to work with. Second, your expenses naturally begin to stabilize. By the time you reach 40, the expensive and chaotic acquisition phase of early adulthood has calmed down. Third, you have developed financial emotional intelligence. By the time you reach 40, you have sufficiently weathered real-world economic cycles to develop true emotional resilience. You don't panic when the market falls. Instead, you see it as an opportunity to buy discounted assets. Let's look at a mathematical comparison that illustrates the immense power of contribution intensity. Consider Sarah, an early and passive investor. She begins investing at age 25. For 40 years, until she turns 65, she commits to contributing a modest $200 each month. Assuming an average annual return of 8%, Sarah has approximately $700,000. Now consider David, a late and aggressive investor. David doesn't invest a single dollar until his 40th birthday. However, because his career has matured and become intensely focused, he aggressively contributes $1,500 each month for 25 years until he turns 65. With exactly the same average return of 8%, David retires with approximately $1,300,000. Although David started 15 years later, his total wealth nearly doubles over a 25-year period, thanks to the immense impact of contribution intensity. To see exactly how this works in practice, let's look at the journey of an individual named Marcus. His story serves as a very realistic example for anyone looking to make a financial transformation in their later years. At 40, Marcus found himself in an incredibly precarious situation. He had only saved $22,000 in his employer's retirement plan, was paying a high monthly car installment, and had accumulated $8,000 in credit card debt due to a series of household emergencies. He earned a respectable salary of $85,000, but as his living expenses quietly increased, along with his salary throughout his 30s, he felt he was constantly living paycheck to paycheck. Every dollar that came into his bank account seemed to vanish at the end of the month, leaving him with nothing to show for his labor. It was as if he hadn't worked at all. Disappointed by his lack of progress, Marcus decided to take complete control of his financial destiny. Over the next 7 years, he implemented a highly systematic, 5-stage recovery strategy. The first stage was entirely focused on stopping the bleeding. One day, Marcus sat down in his chair and conducted a ruthless and honest audit of household expenses, examining each transaction in detail. He discovered that unnoticed, automatic monthly payments, like unused gym memberships and streaming services, totaled a staggering $340 per month. And he was shocked. Then, he restructured his existing car loan, reducing the interest rate from a painful 8.9% to 4.2%. This instantly reduced his monthly car payment by $127. Within 30 days, Marcus was saving $467 per month. In the second stage, Marcus used a disciplined debt avalanche strategy to target his credit card. 8 months later, his $8,000 debt was completely gone. He now had fresh, powerful capital ready to build wealth. The third phase was dedicated to building a robust emergency buffer. Before diving into aggressive stock market investing, Marcus knew he needed a safety net. He channeled his surplus of $817 a month into a high-yield savings account. Within 15 months, he had grown his liquid cash reserve from a shaky $2,000 to a solid $15,000. Now protected by his emergency fund, Marcus moved on to the fourth phase, accelerating his retirement savings. He immediately adjusted his contributions to his company's retirement plan to take full advantage of the company contribution, earning $5,100 entirely free each year. To avoid lifestyle shock, Marcus placed an automatic rule in his payroll system that would increase his retirement contribution rate by just 1% every 6 months. By the time he turned 45, he was effortlessly channeling 18% of his gross income into his retirement accounts. The fifth and final stage involved accelerating income growth and implementing a strict lifestyle freeze. To increase his earning potential, Marcus invested $3,000 from his savings and spent 6 months spending his evenings obtaining a highly respected, specialized project management certification in his field. Armed with this new credential, he negotiated a promotion at a competing firm, securing a massive $22,000 increase in his annual salary and raising his income to $107,000. But instead of improving his life, Marcus froze his lifestyle. He took the entire net increase from his raise, approximately $1,400 a month, and had it automatically deposited into his investment accounts on payday. Just 7 years after starting, at age 47, Marcus had built up a retirement portfolio worth over $380,000. He had no consumer debt, a solid cash reserve, and was mathematically on track to retire at age 62, with savings exceeding $1.2 million. The biggest enemy of financial recovery isn't a lack of income or a late start, it's financial paralysis. Breaking this cycle is in your hands. To break it, you must stop focusing on the distant finish line and concentrate on one highly specific, manageable action within the next 48 hours. If you have credit card debt, your first step is to stop the high compound interest. Find a reputable, low-fee balance transfer card that offers zero interest and transfer your balances to it to freeze the interest. If you have no debt but no cash savings, set up an automatic, regular transfer of $100 to $200 directly to a high-yield savings account on payday. If you have steady savings but aren't currently investing, increase your retirement contribution rate today to the percentage needed to fully receive your company's contribution.